I now recognize Chairman Shaw for 5 minutes to present his testimony.
Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Bonamici, and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to be here, and good morning. A special thank you to Chairman Smith for the kind introduction. My name is Dr. Brian Shaw. I'm the chairman of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality. As the leader of this agency, my job is to ensure we carry out our mission, which is to mitigate environmental risk while basing all of our regulations on sound science and compliance with state and federal statutes. In every case where Texas disagrees with EPA actions, it is because EPA's actions are not consistent with these principles. As you know, the EPA's Clean Power Plan for existing power plants was signed by the EPA Administrator on August 3, 2015, and is currently awaiting publication in the Federal Register. The final version of the Clean Power Plan is radically different than EPA's proposed plan, and as such, the TCEQ is continuing to study and evaluate the impacts of the final rule. Currently, the following concerns associated with the rule have been identified. First, EPA's methodology for determining the best system of emissions reduction, or BSER, in this rule marks a radical departure from historical practice and, I would argue, the plain language of the Clean Air Act. Specifically, the EPA has now asserted the power to determine best systems of emission reductions by evaluating technologies and methods outside the fence of the facilities it claims to be regulating. This is the first time EPA has not determined this BSER based on technology or methods that could be applied to the source itself or materials being used by the source. In the past, best systems of emissions reduction evaluations have included installing scrubbers, low-emission combustion technology, pretreatment of fuels, and myriad other systems that the facility operator actually can control. But in this case, the EPA has evaluated states' electric grids and energy policies as a whole instead of the individual sources which it has authority to regulate under Section 111D of the Clean Air Act. The final Clean Power Plan establishes national performance rates for two subcategories: steam generating units and stationary combustion turbines, applying 3 building blocks to determine BSER. While the final rule allows states to elect to use alternative statewide goals, these goals are derived from those same performance rates. And however, only the first of these blocks, building block 1, or the heat rate improvement, those efficiency improvements on existing coal-fired power plants, is within the historical approach of how EPA has determined BSER in the past. Block 2, which is redispatching generation from steam generating units to natural gas combined cycle units, and Block 3, increased renewable energy, rely on the assumption of other generating units increasing their generating units in which most circumstances are not located in the same area, and for most forms of renewable energy are not even subject to the Federal Clean Air Act. In effect, EPA is setting standards for existing power plants based on the method of electric generation they prefer, not on the control technology or methods that can be feasibly applied to the existing sources. Another major concern is that the final Clean Power Plan has an insignificant effect on global carbon dioxide concentrations, global temperatures, and sea level rise. The final rule does not provide a single quantifiable climate benefit. EPA's purported climate benefits are based solely on the Office of Management and Budget's social cost of carbon, and their claim that it would put the United States in a stronger bargaining position at the President's upcoming climate summits in December. Aside from obvious substantive objections I have to this line of reasoning, I submit to you that a regulation this expensive that entails such an unprecedented derogation of power to the executive branch cannot be justified as a bargaining chip or with fuzzy math. Furthermore, the EPA is deceiving the American public by claiming wildly inflated economic benefits only tangentially related to the purpose of the rule. The rest of EPA's claimed benefits of the rule actually are co-benefits from the reduction of non-GHG, non-greenhouse gas pollutants such as nitrogen oxide, sulfur dioxide, and even these benefits are suspect. Not only are criteria pollutants not the purpose of the Clean Power Plan, the majority of the claimed co-benefits are due to changes in ambient concentration of ozone and PM2.5 in areas that are already attaining the National Ambient Air Quality Standards for these criteria pollutants. So it is irrational for the EPA to claim a health benefit from reduction in a pollutant in an area that EPA has already determined that the current concentration is adequate to protect human health. In areas not attaining this standard, there are other rules, and the Clean Air Act requires those states to develop plans to address those and bring them into compliance. So one final issue before I close would be a more technical concern about the leakage that EPA has included in the final rule. The leakage is the shift of generation from existing units to new units that are not subject to the Clean Power Plan. This results in a net increase in emissions, and EPA is requiring that states that use a mass-based approach must address this leakage. Also, they propose to address that in the federal plan if that federal plan includes a mass-based approach. EPA's motivation for its leakage policy is to remedy the nonsensical situation that emission standards for existing fossil fuel units under 111D are much more stringent than the standards for new fossil fuels under 111B. That is, it would have a more stringent standard for existing sources than for new, and this makes that very detrimental and unworkable moving forward. So it's important for me to bring this forward, and I thank you for the opportunity to testify today.